Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the Citizens Chat Show here on Civic Space TV. We're streaming on YouTube. I'm your host, Judith Atim. Today we are discussing three important and rather interesting issues that are playing out in our political arena. First, of course, is the President's letters on the recently concluded NRM primaries. We shall also look at how opposition parties are choosing their flag bearers. And lastly, the National Unity Platform marks 5 years. What are its successes and setbacks so far? This and more coming up shortly. But without further ado, let me take this opportunity to introduce my panelists on the show. From my immediate left, Dr. Sarah Bireete, Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. A warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Judith, and good afternoon, panelists and viewers.
We also have the pleasure of having been joined by Honorable Henry Banyenzaki, former Minister of State for Economic Monitoring in the Office of the President. He's also former MP for Rubanda West constituency and a member of the ruling NRM party. A warm welcome, Honorable.
Thank you. Good afternoon, viewers.
And could you also tell us maybe later what you've been up to? I think a lot of our people would be interested in knowing that, myself inclusive, but we'll come to that a little later. Last but not least, I have the honor of introducing Dr. Robert Ojiambo, Head of the History Department at Kyambongo University. A pleasure having you on the show, Dr. Ojiambo.
Thank you.
And later in the show, of course, we shall be joined by Mr. Joseph Ochieno, political commentator and UPC Idelogue, will also be sharing his insights on the issues that we're discussing. So just a bit of context to the key issues that are playing out in our politics. You've all been following the recently concluded NRM primaries, and you've seen the president's letters on this exercise. The president, as chairman of the ruling party, has recently issued a series of letters addressing widespread concerns and irregularities that marred the party's recently concluded primary elections. Of course, the primaries are a crucial step in selecting the NRM's flag bearers for various elective positions in the upcoming 2026 general elections. But this exercise was characterized by accusations of bribery, violence, ballot stuffing, result alteration, and this played out across numerous constituencies. The president's letters have acknowledged these malpractices, and he has expressed strong condemnation for self-seekers who polluted the democratic process. He has vowed to rectify the irregularities. He has announced arrests for those involved in electoral fraud, and also called for the establishment of a legal tribunal to handle petitions and ensure that there is justice for aggrieved members. And of course, these letters underscore the internal challenges within the NRM as it navigates its internal democracy and seeks to maintain its integrity ahead of the significant electoral cycle. So very quickly, I think I will start with Honorable. Of course, you'll start by telling us what's been going on in your life lately. But I would like us to talk about the impact of the NRM primaries and all the irregularities on the image of the party. And to what extent do you think the president's letters actually strengthen or weaken the party's image and its internal cohesion?
Thank you very much. Oh, I begin with what I've been up to since when I left active politics. That's about 10 years back. After that, I think I've been in operational wealth creation. I'm a director there, the Office of the President. And this is a quiet agency. Quiet meaning we are not up there, but many people know us as people who distribute money. But we don't actually do distribute money. We do oversight role on the ministries, departments, and the agencies that drive the economy, to make it short. Previously, we were anchored in NUDS, which was the Minister of Agriculture, but now we are anchored in the Office of the President. And basically what we do, though it is misunderstood that our job is about giving monies, giving goodies, making people's life easy. But basically, we do monitor and oversee the MDAs that have an active role to play in the economy. So our mandate is wide, but not inscripted very clearly in the policies, in the policy statements of government. I'll leave it to Sarah, that one, to diagnose that. And as far as the NRM primaries and the NRM party are concerned, yes, I'm actually founder of the NRM party. Because at the time when NRM was being formed, at that time I was a member of parliament, but under NRM. And when we transited to multi-party political system, NRM became a party. And at that time, we were calling it NRMO. But the O is now, we don't see it anymore. So I'm an NRM founder, and I was very young and very active, and I was very vigilant in enforcing good governance at that time. And since then, 15 years down the road within the political party system, I was representing my constituency for 10 years under the political party system, 5 years under NRM organization. NRM, the original.
Movement.
Yes.
The movement.
It's basically the same. It's just semantics. So after now, then 10 years now, that's the reality.
Okay.
10 years now, I've been playing my role behind scenes. And right now, I'm going back into politics again, active, but not under NRM. I want to come independent because I want to offer a service to my country and to my people. And I believe that to give a service to a nation and to our people, specifically my constituents, and to the people of Uganda as such, I don't have to be conscripted under a party organization. And more or less, there are so many people that have lost their identity in the party systems. And I'm so convinced, that hiding my identity and in a party and being constrained in a party, I don't give my nation enough. Because my experience within NRM, I tried to be independent and objective, to stand by the truth, stand by the democratic principles, to stand by the constitutional values. And every time we rose to the occasion, we would always be hit on the head. In the last there is one time when I spent the last 5 years, I don't say that I was fighting for my survival, but I was challenging my party. And that's when they came up with, they wanted to expel me and Honorable Idiomochi, just because we had put the government to task that had done the wrong thing by sieging the court when Bestie was being released. So I believe that sometimes these party systems, these party organizations, some of us who have independent thinking and very objective, these parties impede on our aspirations. And that's why I'm going in my constituency as an independent. If I am fought, that will be another thing. They'll be fighting the people. And at times, our people don't understand and what's going on. They learn by experience. So I'm ready for anything. And if they are I'm ready for anything. And let the people see what's happening there. In as far as the primaries were concerned, Did you expect anything better under Tango Doi? Did you? Did anybody expect anything better?
You think Tanga Odoy is the problem? Do you think if there was a different head of the Electoral Commission for the NRM, we wouldn't have witnessed what we witnessed?
I think the problem is, I think the system is faulty. Because Tang Odoy is dancing the tune of the system. He is on the stage to dance the tune of the system. And the letters which the president is writing, the nation, you know, what happens within the NRM has, it is a rider to the democratic principles that's happening in this country. Because it is, first of all, it is the ruling party. So if it is the ruling party and it is using all the machinery of the government and it does whatever it does, then that means that even these other parties, the confusion will be much more, even when they don't desire to have that. Because you have seen what has happened in DP. And whatever was happening, whatever chaos was happening, they were under the protection of the security agencies. So what the president has written, well, I think the citizens and the party members want action other than letters. It is him who has appointed SEC, Central Executive Committee, which he chairs as the party chairperson, who has appointed Tango Doi. But he also knows how much power and influence he wields over these apex bodies within the NRM. So if he's writing, who is he writing this letter to? To who is he writing this letter to? He should be writing a letter to fire Tango Doi. Now he's writing the letter to the aggrieved, and to the aggrieved, and to the Bazukuru, who have nothing to do with what is happening there, and it's not correct.
Thank you,
the party chairman should take action. He should crack the whip. And before I leave, it is so disheartening to see some of our senior, I don't want even to say senior members in the NRM, but the senior citizens, the founders, those who were in the bush, who were fighting, and then you see who came with advocating for good governance, advocating for constitutionalism, advocating for clean politics. Again, you see they're intoxicating the people. It is so shameful. I don't know how I can term this. To give our people, and you are giving them walaji, you are giving them what? And the people you are giving walaji, even when I'm seeing this, I feel like crying, because I know what our people go through. Mothers, I know. I have built health units. I've done what it takes. But to see the people who don't have health services, who don't have hospitals, who are not going to school, who are not accessing what will improve their quality of life, all you are doing is to intoxicate them with waraji, and you think you are a leader. It is shameful. I don't know. I don't know what has happened to this country. And I don't know. I know what I'm talking about. I have seen ladies, I've seen mothers dying.
We'll come back. We'll come back to that. I know when you reflect on some of the things that happen, especially at the grassroots, it's sobering. I think that's the word I should use. Sarah, let me come to you. The president says, again, people should be arrested for involvement in electoral fraud. There should be a legal tribunal established to ensure accountability and so on. But just how effective do you think these directives will go in as far as ensuring accountability and the rule of law is concerned?
I will start with the double standards of President Museveni. A few months ago, Ugandans witnessed extreme violence in Kawempe by-elections. The president wrote angry letters, 2 of them. We must investigate, we must. What happened after that? No single arrest. Of course, the whole country knows. If you see members in an election, who has commanded members? It's the army. The army has structures. Army high command, division commanders, whatever, up to the smallest unit. Do you need to come to the country and write your letters of lamentations when you are a head of state, or you should indeed take action? He promised to the country that he had set up an investigation committee, which was never mentioned. And of course, we are going into another election. And that ghost investigative committee, nobody knows what happened. Now come the NRM primaries. Of course, the same chaos. And like General Munt said, you cannot give what you don't have. President Museveni and NRM, they are not democratic. And there is no democracy they can give the country. So what you citizens witnessed in the NRM primaries is what President Museveni and his group intended to happen, and it's what they wished for this country. 40 years of leadership, this is what they can demonstrate. And that's how deep they've taken us down the drain. When it comes to the letters, I think it's political drama. Who hasn't seen the ministers who distributed the money, even on the voting lines, including Honorable Gume, the Minister of State for Cooperatives, including a minister who, Honorable Bireete in her clip says, distributed the 600 million on voting day? Like, what evidence is he looking for? And if I go by General Kayanja's outburst, the president has security structures right from the village. Village internal security organization, VISO, it has members. So meaning that a call to the DISO Director General, he would gather all reports in a matter of hours using the DISO, PISO, Parish Internal Security Organization, GISO,
Gombolora.
The Gombolora, ISO representatives, DISO, that structure from the village up to the district and the country. How, in a matter of 3 hours, the president would have a report of who did what, who won, who lost, per village. 72,000 villages. You would sit and see who won in which area. He has a big, directorate under the presidency and the presidential assistants. What do they assist him with? They would get all these reports from village in ISO operatives and count and say this is who person who won at this village, and then tell you Tanga, Narfai. These are the results. So taking the country through letter writing, as if it's St. Paul writing to Galatians and the other people that we read in the Bible, I think is part of his political drama to cool down the tempers in his party, because 2 things are at stake. One, and like Honorable Bariomus has said, many of the NRM leaders will come as independents. Banyenzaki, sorry. They are both my friends.
He's my twin brother.
My apologies. So Honorable Banyenzaki has said many independents will come from NRM. In the current parliament, independents are more than members of the opposition. And the majority of these independents, I think about 49, are from the NRM party. This time round, we are likely to have 100 NRM independents in the 12th parliament. So how do you whip the party when you have majority of them as independents? They can do, like Honorable Banyenzaki has said, he wants to support the democratic principles. And we know his track record when he was in parliament. He was branded as a rebel MP. Okay. Yeah, so what do you do if you have such MPs coming through your party that you can't control, that are interested in seeing this country move forward instead of the stalemate that we experience in democracy? The second issue at threat is, NRM fronting more candidates and creating room for opposition defeat, because they will divide their support. Where you have the flag bearer, one independent or two, the NRM support will be divided among the three candidates who are all from one party. There are chances that the opposition parties can make inroads and win more seats as compared to the previous party. And I think these are the two issues pushing President Museveni to act through letter writing to the Galatians. What then happens in the general elections? The president highlights 4 issues that went wrong in their own internal party elections: violence, voter bribery, alteration of results, alteration of registers. What are they going to do to the general election? Because this is a twin to the malpractices that we deal with or witness in the general election as observers. And if a person can use 600 million on voting day in primaries, how much money are they going to use in the general election? And if they use this much money, where the voter has become the seller in a public auction, the leaders are the buyers, do we expect service from these leaders? Or these are businessmen, crooked businessmen, coming in to invest money and harvest it, hence the corruption and dubious things we see in Parliament? I submit.
Thank you. Dr. Ojiambo, I want us to talk about the future of internal democracy. When you look at all these irregularities that characterized the NRM primaries and the president's response, what do this reveal about the state of internal democracy within the NRM? And I know before we started this conversation, you actually made a remark that studying African politics has become a lot harder than finding a cure for HIV, which I found quite interesting. And I don't know how, this is quite a hard question as well. I don't know how you're going to respond to this. Yeah, or should I send you to find a cure for something?
Thank you, Judith. First of all, I'm very privileged this evening to have one of my boyhood hero. Yeah, when he was a member of parliament.
Yeah, yes.
And he had transcended the Rwanda West, or whatever constituency he was presenting then, to a national MP, whereby every child who was trying to debate in the public arena would want to imitate people like him. I remember they had replaced another breed which had just left parliament, the breed of Agrawori, the breed of when Mao was still Mao, Winnie Byanyima, Wandero Gallo, that group of people who went to parliament after research, and they would speak on the floor, and you don't know where they come from, but they are speaking for Uganda. They would remind for us who study history, the likes of Cuthbert Obwangor, and they held the same position in the government later, because Cuthbert Obwangor was also a member of parliament, but a minister for finance and economic development. That's how it was called then. But who could disagree with his president? or the leader of UPC. You remember when he was dismissed in 1968 because he disagreed with the president over things like arrest without warrant and all those other things which he thought that would affect any other member. And I think the Banyenzakis of that time were trying to do such a thing. So having such people in a country, and if we built at that foundation of which you were pushing with your colleagues, would be far. But the trouble has been that these small voices have been silenced and killed. Now we have hecklers, people who go to parliament to heckle and put on shirts as if they are going. What I've seen with the president of the Republic of Uganda, he likes drama. He's very dramatic. He likes drama, and when there is drama in the country, he sits back and enjoys. So things like writing letters is just part of the drama, and he becomes like this person in the church choir. He almost, how do you call it? Conducting. Yeah, he conducts the drama. Because who is causing trouble in elections? UPDF. Who heads UPDF in Uganda? It is His Excellency Yoweri Museveni. He's the commander-in-chief. Who is bringing chaos in elections? It is his senior ministers that he has appointed and given a lot of power. When they are traveling, they are small gods and goddesses. This time I want to use really good English. Gods and goddesses. Who are the people causing trouble? Their agents, policemen, the escorts. You saw, I was really shocked that in this country, it can be blatant that policemen can go in partisan politics and nothing happens. Policemen, they are lining. And they are lining for a certain candidate, and that candidate is declared and nothing happens. And the president is there dramatizing and deceiving people that something is going to be done. What will be done? Who is causing trouble in this country? Who taught people to give money in elections in Uganda? The other day, Major Wich was saying a certain person, I didn't want to believe him, but I respect him. It is Yoweri Museveni. He's the one who goes and I told you, for us who study, 7 years not to believe in those things. But once he saw how Moi was surviving in Kenya, he adopted that method. President Museveni was a very good friend of Nyerere. But Nyerere did not believe in things like this of giving people money and so on. So he shifted from Nyerere and went to Moi. Moi is a man who wanted to keep himself in power and was using it through bribery. If they don't give you direct money, they give you a job. If they don't give you a job, they send you to do something funny and they pay you. And if they don't do that, they imprison you if you're opposing. So Moi was seen as the tutor of Museveni in staying in power. And I don't know how he's going to avoid it. I told you on Saturday he came to Kyambongo to see about 50 hens. There were 50 hens by some man there called Impande, who has been keeping those hens for the last 10 years, 50 of them. So they bring, when he's going to come, they bring another 500. And they got, you see them really transporting these things to that place. Then they go and dramatize. Then they explain it to him. Then he becomes a dramatic. Then at the end of the day, he hands envelopes to people. He gives, a president of a country, I've always said this, if a president of a country is seen handing over envelopes to people, when envelope handing is a form of corruption in our country here. So he gave that man 12 million shillings and brought a poor man a lot of problems. I don't know whether that money really normally remains there. I'm yet to find the man and ask him. So you asked me what can be done in trying to I was thinking about this, and I think if they are sincere, they have to do the things. Number one, all elective positions in Uganda from LOC1 to the president should have a limit, whereby you don't have people become professional politicians. Let people be teachers, let people be doctors, let people do other things, then go to politics to give a service. And for me, I would propose that all elective positions should have a limit, so that we don't have this problem that we are now having. People go for election on stretchers. They take somebody on a stretcher to be elected. And to stand, he must be supported to stand up. And when he stands, he becomes a nuisance to the country. That is number one. Number two, I would also think that we need to reduce the benefits in politics. The benefits by somebody becoming a politician. And this should be legislated, if only that we don't have a parliament. If we had a parliament, these are things they need to think about, so that they reduce, because you see, this is economics. Supply influences demand. Everybody has now seen that it is in politics that once you are elected MP, you get a free car, a lot of money, policemen are following you, you are driving on the wrong side of the road, and so if they would remove these things and only facilitate, so that you say, let there be a salary structure for public servants, MOP, LC5, whatever, inclusive, so that I choose, do I want to teach or to go in parliament? In my university, in fact, unfortunately, my department, one of the professors resigned and went for election in Palabek. Now he has lost. He is disturbing us. And you look at him.
How is it disturbing you?
He wants to come back, but the human resource manual does not allow. Does not allow. So I think that is another thing. Then the other problem in politics is...
lost in what?
Primaries.
So what tells you that if you lose in the primaries, you're...
Why doesn't he run as an independent?
He has no chance. He was the last. He was the last with the less than 1,000 votes. So he would need a miracle. The other thing which I think we need to do as a country, I don't know which magic can be played and we remove the military in elections. All elections.
Leadership.
All elections, the military. You know, when I was growing up, I keep sharing, and they must have been even better because they are slightly older than me. Men kept in the barracks. And for us who were near the barracks, we were even shocked. I come just about 6 kilometers from Magamaga barracks. That is my home. But to see an army man loitering out of the barracks, they would get them and take them back to the quarter guard and really punish them, even if they were found. That first NRA, they would take them back and really kick them for loitering in Magamaga there, in Kakira, in Wairaka. They would have problems. Men now do everything, and you wonder, what is the boundary between somebody who is a serving officer and a civilian? There is no difference. The only thing that this one has even now a gun and other things to use to threaten the other people. They are the ones who have caused a lot of commotion. And army candidates, wherever there have been an army candidate, a person who is army, because in Uganda I have seen army men don't retire. They retire, but they remain in the army. They will only be there pretending that they have retired. The day they think that they should put on a combat, they put on the combat and come. So if we could do a miracle and remove these army men, but that's not enough. But also restructure the army, restructure the police, so that in police we have policemen, in army we have army men, and civilians remain civilians. Now in Uganda it is difficult to know who is a civilian, who is an army man, who is a policeman, who is RDC. Then those RDCs are now the last one, public servants. Our law is very, very clear that public servants should not participate in partisan politics. But so long as it is NRM, it is okay.
Thank you.
That has caused that.
Thank you, Dr. Ojiambo. Honorable Banyenzaki, let me come to you. You've made it clear you're throwing your hat in the ring once again. When Sarah was talking, well, you've also acknowledged all the bad things that have happened. But when Sarah was talking earlier, she said, what we've seen in the primaries is just a precursor for what's to come in January 2026. So for the politician who hopes for fair play, for the average voter who who believes that their one vote will or can make a difference, what does this mean? And what does this mean broadly for Uganda and for the future of this country?
Well, there is a very big difference between the NRM Electoral Commission and the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda in terms of management of the electoral elections. At least in Independent Electoral Commission, the National Electoral Commission, you can see some regulations being applied, and you can see some discipline. But in NRM, it is it's not regulated at all, because you have kids voting. I saw kids voting in the same line with the minister, and the kids were in front of the minister and behind the minister. It's like as if the minister was protecting them. Don't touch them, and they're being counted. And with the Electoral Commission, we are told that they are cleaning the voter register. And we are told that voting will be by biometrics and these modern kind of gadgets. So I think we hope for sanity in the elections of the Electoral Commission, the Independent Electoral Commission. But in as far as we are managing ourselves in the parties, it is really chaotic. And it is not only chaotic for NRM, it's chaotic for almost all parties. I see what was happening in DP, it was worse. FDC, there are fights. What we haven't seen, there are fights in the PFFF. It's called PFFF?
PFF.
It is for what?
People's Front for Freedom.
People's Front for Freedom. I wish them the best. We have not seen fighting there. But if you say in NUP, you also see fights. And some of these fights in the NUP, sometimes, I don't know how I can characterize them, but there is an external hand that is influencing those kind of fights. So we hope that one day, like what our Ambassador Don was saying, that a miracle, we don't need a miracle. We need a decision taken. It's a decision to be taken. To say, military men, get out of politics, it is just a snapshot like this. It is the president commanding them. We don't want any army in politics. It will happen spontaneously. That we don't need a miracle in that. Mm-hmm. And indeed, what is happening now is that even the police would be keeping law and order. They have also taken partisan. They think that they have to protect the NRM. NRM is government, NRM is everything, and others are enemies. So, and personally, I'm disappointed by the youth. Very disappointed by the youth. Because my first meeting with President Museveni was in Kabale, when I was going to my constituency, and I was told that the president is in one of the hotels called White Horse Inn. And I said I want to meet him because I had some issues to address to him in my constituency. And I was told you cannot meet the president because he's meeting the journalists. And I was then I said, are you saying that the president can have time for journalists in my district and he cannot have time for me, member of parliament? I said, I want to see him. And indeed, when he heard that I want to see him, but that's when I was very vibrant. We met, and he asked me, Iwe Banyenzaki, kano gamba bingi. Meaning, I talk too much, I'm so, I told him at that time I was 42. I told him, I am 42 now. This is the age when you took over this country. Put yourself in my shoes. If these things that are happening now were happening then, would you accept them? You came advocating for good governance. You came advocating for constitutionalism, rule of law. Would you accept what's happening now? So the discussion was wrong. It was a wrong discussion. But he eventually conceded that something has to be done. The discussion was for another day. Those were the days when things had started to happen. That's when they were arresting Nabiras. And I remember I went to the police station and I just commanded, I said, Nabira, this cannot happen. You can't arrest a member of parliament like that. I found Nabira barefooted in a cement. I said, put on your shoes. The policemen watched me like this. They were overwhelmed. And those were the days when we were having those kind of debates and we were putting government to task. How do you send the army to invade the court? But now it's the order of the day. They invade the court. They invade the other. So it is, we need, so what I was talking about the youth. Now the youth who would be standing to fight for a better Uganda, they have now joined the destroyers of the nation. And then in joining the destroyers of the nation, they are there and they are saying, Nafe twagala kuyingira mu kintu. Are you going to join the Chintu that is... Why do you want to join the house that is burning? And you are joining a house which is burning, the roof is burning and you are entering. The nation is burning and you are entering. What do you expect? I have seen the Gen Z in Kenya and they are making a difference. They have put President Moi, Ruto rather, to account. But here, that's why our letters are to the Bazuku. They are fraternizing. You get? It's very unfortunate. And of course, unfortunately, the president is my boss. And I'm not believing, I don't believe with some of the things that are happening under his watch. But something has to be done. Something has to be done. And the youth have to wake up to the occasion. You, the youth over there behind here, you belong to that bracket, age bracket. And for us, we're in our evening. We have done our part. So if the youth do not wake up to the occasion, the so-called, you can imagine now, nowadays they even don't understand. We celebrate poverty, ghettoism. How can we be there and we just say ghettoism? Ghetto, inako, poverty. And we think, and we celebrate that. I think we should be celebrating like a real transformation. We need some of I think something has to be done for this nation, in this nation. And as he was saying that a miracle, yes, I think this nation, I don't know whether it should be a miracle, but we have to do actions that are deliberate to transform this nation. And all the enablers to transform this nation are there. We are a blessed country, we have resources, we have everything that we are. It's like Uganda is like a paradise on earth. But see how the issue of governance is lacking. And unless we sort the issue of governance, and what we are talking about leaders, talking about everybody's learning in leadership. It is the order of the day now. I think when you go in the village, I think in this country, it's like 10% that are not in leadership. I think even you could be in leadership in your university there. But if you go on a village, you have 9 LCs. You have 30 vigilantes, they are called over what? You have leaders into these political circles, PDM what? You have leaders, what? So the leadership, like if you look at the structure of the NRM now, it is the whole country. 70% of the population are leaders. Now, and you tell me that where will you get resources for service delivery with that bloated parliament of coming 600 members? These LC structures, manya what? Manya, when we came up as a government, not as a government, we advised the government, some of us, to rationalize the government agencies. What was the mind behind those who advised into rationalization? Was to have a lean structure that will offer service delivery. And the thinking was that even the political side needs to be rationalized. You don't need a cabinet of 80 ministers to run this country. And when you have the biggest economy in the world, America has how many? 20 what?
27.
27 ministers. Uganda has 80. Across there, Kenya, the biggest economy in East Africa, they have about 27.
Also 27.
Yeah.
29 now.
So, and what are you talking about? And you are having 80 ministers, 100 plus presidential advisors, manya what, including myself. By the way, I'm not a blackhead. I'm Operation Waste Creation. Sometimes I think, should I resign? Should I do what? Yeah, that's the truth.
Yes.
I'm also caught in that quagmire. You get? And it is very unfortunate. You are laughing at it, but it is very unfortunate. Seeing that, you know.
Well, I appreciate and understand your dilemma. It's time for us to take a break. But when we return, Sarah, I would like to hear your thoughts. Banyenzaki raises a very interesting issue when he compares the Independent Electoral Commission and the NRM Electoral Commission. He thinks the independent EC is more dependable. But I know what your views have been on this show and on other platforms, what your thinking is about the Electoral Commission. But I'd still like to know whether you agree that it's more dependable and perhaps it could deliver free, fair, and credible elections. I'd like to hear your thoughts after the break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and we're glad that you're still with us here on the Citizens Chat Show, streaming on YouTube, on Civic Space TV. My name is Judith Atim. Once again, I'm your host, and we're glad that now Mr. Joseph Ochieno has also joined us for the second segment of the show. Just to remind you, on the show today, we are discussing President Museveni's letters on the recently concluded NRM primaries. We are also taking a look at how opposition parties are choosing flag bearers, as well as the internal politics within these parties. And the National Unity Platform celebrates 5 years this month. And what are their successes, what are the setbacks, and what does a road ahead look like for them? That's what we shall be talking about. Joseph, good to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm delighted to meet my brother in the middle, putting on red. We are fantastic friends of many of these studios, and is once again welcome while I was away. He kept on, did he?
Absolutely,
Really
you did an
well.
amazing job. So before we went to the break, Sarah, I had posed a question to you. Dr. Banyenzaki had, of course, expressed optimism about the Independent Electoral Commission. He was comparing it to the NRM Electoral Commission, and I asked, are you as optimistic that the Independent Electoral Commission can be more dependable and trusted to deliver on its mandate come January 2026?
Ideally, the National Electoral Commission should be better than party commissions. There are things they will do better, and the Honorable is right. For example, issues of disappearing registers, issues of lining up will not be there, it's by secret ballot, issues of paying money at polling stations, they'll be there, but limited. It can't be as blatant as in the NRM primaries. Yes, to some extent it will be better. My problem with the National Electoral Commission, however, is that it's not independent. Just a simple exercise of voter education. And they told many civic actors that they are waiting for security to tell them what to do. Voter education. They are waiting for security. Is this a commission really that is envisaged in our constitution? Independent, credible, that you are waiting for security? So there are groups in the army, and under civic actors have been told the names. Of course, there is then the head of crime intelligence, who also happens to be an army man, Major General Damurira, the one in charge of ghetto structures, trying to organize around the poverty that Honorable was talking about. And yeah, so they were waiting for security to see who can do vote education. I think we have in place, and without due respect to Justice Byabakama, we have in place in Uganda's history the weakest electoral commission. They've now confirmed that they are well facilitated, their budget is fully funded. One of their functions is to do voter education. Previously, we would see visible voter education announcements in the media, print, and the visual and audio. This time there is nothing, yet they have confirmed that their budget is fully funded. Why aren't they doing voter education? And if they are waiting for security to see who to partner with in voter education, what will happen during election observation? In the last elections, one of the commissioners did cause the arrest of civic actors who were accredited to observe elections, called the police to arrest our colleagues. Denied having accredited them with letters signed by her. She threatened to fire the legal principal officer who came to police in Chuburi to explain that the civic actors were accredited. A commissioner have just withheld her position. This is the kind of commission we are talking about. If they were to exercise the powers given to them in the Constitution, yes, every citizen would lay back and expect a credible, free and fair election. But do they give that comfort? I doubt. When it comes to the role of the army, I just want to remind viewers that wherever you see the army, that's the direct delivery, or it's a direct gift from President Museveni to you, including Kawempe, including Kanungu, where the army bet retired the Assistant Inspector General of Police in the primaries, including Sembabure, Why do I say that it's a direct gift from President Museveni to citizens? Because he's the commander-in-chief of the army. He's also the president. So I want us to put the responsibility of the misconduct of the army directly on President Museveni, because he's the commander-in-chief of the defense forces.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Let's now move on to the opposition parties and how they are actually organizing for their internal elections. But I think before we go that, it would be a big injustice if we didn't also discuss concurrently the developments within the Uganda People's Congress Party. And if you haven't been following the news, or if you have already, you definitely know that Uganda's oldest party, the Uganda People's Congress Party, is currently embroiled in significant internal leadership wrangles. And of course, this is casting a shadow over its preparations for the 2026 general election. So what exactly has happened in the party? The central issue is the leadership of the party. Jimmy Akena, son of the UPC founder, Apollo Milton Obote, has been the party president. However, a recent High Court ruling, as recent as Friday last week, nullified his nomination for a third term, stating that it contravened the UPC Constitution's 2-term limit for the party president. Now, multiple factions within the party are claiming leadership. The court ruling has intensified this existing factionalism within the UPC. Jimmy Akena remains defiant. He has publicly stated that he will respect the court decision, but intends to leave his fate to the party delegates. He has also announced a delegates conference set for July 26th, that is Saturday this week, in Kamdini district, to address party legal concerns. Akena has also expressed his intention to contest the 2026 presidential election, pending endorsement by his party, which has been pushing for grassroots renewal. There's also another faction, Dennis Adim Enap. He's a city lawyer. He was also introduced as the newly elected party president by 3 members of the party's internal electoral commission, but Akena has quickly dismissed these 3 officials, accusing them of insubordination. Peter Walibiri's challenge. Peter Walibiri is a veteran lawyer and long-time UPC member. He has also entered the fray, formally petitioning the National Electoral Commission to reject both Akena's and Enap's claims to the presidency. He insists that he is the rightful leader of the party, calling both Akena and Enap imposters. And on to our very colleague here, Joseph Ochieno. He's a long-serving and prominent member of the UPC, and he has been a consistent challenger to the party's leadership, particularly against Jimmy Akena. And Joseph has historically sought judicial review to contest the outcomes of elections that placed Akena in the presidency, although his efforts have often centered on arguing that the party constitution has been violated in selection processes. So in the latest round of disputes following the High Court's nullification, Ochieno has also intensified his claim, along with others like Peter Walibiri. He insists he's the rightful president of the UPC. Joseph, the question of UPC is it's an issue that never seems to get resolved to its fullest. What does this, I know the last time we were here was Thursday, and then Friday is when the High Court made this ruling. When you read this ruling, what was your initial reaction?
I feel very sad that we should be having this conversation in 2025. And as you rightly suggested, there are factions, in fact, there are 3 factional presidents. But what you'll be delighted to know is that there would be 4th factional president, if you call them factions, is actually the undeclared president, who's Joseph Ochieno, and I've refused to call myself president, primarily because I genuinely want to be very deliberate to young Ugandans of today, the context of the conversation, that those of us who are fighting for democracy, we should not be pushing for ourselves, and we should not be seeking to play games that we don't want others to do. And for that reason, I said that although I was duly elected president in 2020, because I was not declared, I still refuse to sort of impose myself onto that, rather than adding factionalism. Clearly, at this stage in our political life, and 20 years since the return to multipartyism, and 20 years since my return from exile, this is not the conversation we should be having politically, nor should it be the conversation that the Uganda People's Congress, that really led the return to multipartyism, should be having. Now, this is a matter, as you rightly say, that started from 2015, but I'll cut it short because of time. 2020, a Court of Appeal ruled, after a silence of 5 years, ruled while dismissing Jim McKenna's application to challenge, his illegality as president, and dismissed his application and asked for fresh elections. Court of Appeal asked for fresh elections. 2 persons, Dixon Apul, Dan Okello, Peter Olubiri, and myself do participate in these elections. We participated, and I won it convincingly. Unfortunately, Olubiri and co. opted for various reasons to make sure that they fudged the figures, played around, and I wasn't declared. When I sought the internal processes, it did not respond positively to me. I had no option but to seek a judicial review, which I thought would take only 6 months. But the judicial review has taken 4 years and 4 months. But while we were waiting for that, and while my matter went through the hands of now the 4th judge, the judicial review, 4th judge, and the judicial review seeking a declaration that I'm elected president, and the judicial review, part of which was asking for a permanent injunction against Jim McKenna. Jim McKenna continued, and recently calls a delegates conference, calls for party internal process, election processes, in which Dennis NUP joins in the fray. Dennis, after the interim electoral process, before the matters even go to the district conferences, decides to challenge Jimmy's legality because eligibility for candidature for continuation. Technically, if Jimmy was the legitimate leader, Dennis would be right on the basis of the Constitution. The ruling by Justice Nemanja looked at the evidence purely on the basis of that alone and ruled that indeed Jimmy was not eligible to stand for third term, and he was not, and left it there. What does it mean? It means NUP now emerges as an alternative leader. I came to know 2 days ago that NUP has since gone ahead and also formally not only declared himself president but swore himself. So that means we have a Jim McKenna, illegitimate and illegal, sworn in as president. Dennis NUP, who participated in an illegality, now himself sworn in as president. Peter Olubiri, who by and large on the basis of the Court of Appeal ruling of 2020 was the legitimate elected leader as 2020, but who usurped the position that I'm challenging, is also a president. That's not really the mess in where it is. But what you don't know is since then, not only has Jimmy dismissed 3 of the 4 members of the commission, including the vice chairperson and 2 other members, only remaining the chairperson of the commission, but he has also sacked his secretary general, that is Idelogue. Idelogue, I was on television with him the other day, and he said no, he was touring northern Uganda, was busy working. It looked rather comic. And since then, Jimmy is the remaining electoral commission of 1 chairperson, Haji Kazimbarani, fantastic elder gentleman whom I hugely respect, but now looks comic. Goes ahead and now dismisses Dennis NUP in a formal letter saying that no, actually, your selection process is a nullity because there's some sense of irregularity. And looks funny, doesn't it? If you see what's happening in the NRM primaries, except for the killings and except for the exchange of money, Uganda is now a fantastic fudged mess. The party should actually be putting the telescope on the mess in NRA rather than making itself look as silly as it is, unfortunately.
So, Joseph, as we thank you for that, first of all, but as we resume with continue with our discussion on opposition parties and the internal issues, I think I'll also come back to you a little later on what you think the future holds for UPC going forward, especially as we go into this crucial electoral season, but that's a little later. I'll now move to the rest of the panelists. I don't know if anyone has 1 or 2 things to say about UPC, or we just look at the broader opposition in general. As you all
might want to congratulate me or to commiserate me that.
No, I think for UPC, or what remains of it, they have been clear on the issue of term limits, both for the national constitution and their own constitution. The old UPC stood for constitutionalism when they were in power, challenges notwithstanding. So when they lose that last card, in my view, then the population might have nothing to put their hands on when it comes to UPC. Honorable Jimmy Akena is known as a person who has never respected court outcomes, especially when it comes to challenge to his hold on to the party. And sometimes you could be forced to think that he also has some NRM tendencies, and he thinks UPC is his birthright, given that his father is a founder, like the same tendencies we see in NRM. And for me, that's very unfortunate. If the court has issued a decision, and this is a court of record, if you have no appeal, that means legally you agree with the decision of court. Even if ideally, and I hope that won't happen, amending the UPC constitution just to accommodate the founder's son, it will be very, very unfortunate, and that might mark the death of UPC. So my call to the other members, senior members of UPC, is to unite and make sure the court decision is enforced. Then they will sort out other issues after.
Thank you. Dr. Ojiambo, you want to say something?
You see,
yes, very quickly in 3 minutes.
You see, there is a very big problem with and that's where Honorable Banyenzaki started from. I think people went into political parties without understanding what they are, or political party politics in Uganda without understanding what it was, and instead want to use this, as I normally call it, a general purpose vehicle to always fulfill their interests. At first, Akena was not a politician. He was just a son of a politician. I had not read anywhere where Akena was even a class monitor doing some leadership. The only thing I knew, he was the loved child of the father, staying with him in Zambia. Then, all of a sudden, I don't know for what reasons, he was dragged into politics when his mother retired, because the mother came and became a custodian for some time and even stood for presidential elections. And then Akena came in, and since Akena came into UPC, there have been a lot of struggle at the Uganda House, to an extent that UPC is torn into very small pieces that have fallen in Lango region. That's all, the only piece that you are seeing there. I think they had one candidate in Nebi, one MP, and that was the last out of Lango region. And that becomes very worrisome for an independence party, a party which was, and it is a general picture in the whole of Africa. Most of them are going away, especially those which did not transform, like TANU. TANU now became CCM in Tanzania. KANU is gone. May its soul rest in eternal peace. And many of them, even in Ghana, in Zambia, in Malawi, in all these places. I'm worried that UPC may be on that track, sloping very fast, which is not good, because UPC, unlike other political parties, had the ideology, and its ideology had built Uganda for some time until 1980, until they surrendered the power to the military juntas in 1971 and later these other things. So I think, in my view, the UPC needs to sit together. Nobody is going to help them to resolve this problem. They need to sit together. For me, I would urge all the parties, without blaming any other person, to go back and ask themselves a question. Where did the rain start beating us? And when they discover where the rain started beating them, they will now see whether they put on new clothes and start the next journey, or they agree to separate like the other parties have done, so that Akena can go with one wing and the reformists go with one wing, and they continue. But for now, as Sarah's fear is real, Akena may ignore the court ruling like he has always done, call his delegates conference and they will live there singing, having declared him the president now for the 4th term.
Thank you. Honorable, do you have anything to say? Joseph wonders whether you would like to congratulate him or you want to commiserate.
I have no comment in UPC politics. I don't understand it. I understand better NRM politics, UPC, I don't.
So very well.
Logo area.
Very well. So let's take a focus now on shift focus on the other opposition parties, broadly speaking, of course, and how they're choosing flag bearers. Of course, as you all know, it's a busy season for everyone, whether it's a ruling party or the opposition party. And in the opposition camps, many parties are engaged in their respective processes of selecting flag bearers for the different races from presidential to the lowest level. But unlike the NRM's widely publicized and often contentious primaries, the opposition parties tend to take a departure in the methods that they employ when choosing candidates. Sometimes they have their internal party caucuses, they have delegates conference, or even direct primaries. Although these are less extensive or not as open to the public as the NRMs. And this also comes with questions, of course, of transparency, fairness, and perceived legitimacy of these selection processes, which are crucial for party unity and public confidence, especially as the opposition seeks to jostle power from the ruling NRM. So very quickly, I think I'll start with you, Dr. Sarah. When you look at the methods that the opposition parties tend to employ, and you compare to, of course, the chaotic and contentious NRM processes, do you think the methodology or the approach of the opposition actually gives them an upper hand? Is it fair? Is it transparent as compared to what the methodology that the ruling party uses?
You know, the NRM method of choosing flag bearers, save for the lining up, would be the ideal, except that they bungle their own processes. Yeah, they don't have democratic principles. It's just a process they must follow. But in an ideal situation, people who want to run for a particular seat, if they are more than one, they should be subject to open competition. So on that aspect, NRM takes the credit, except their methodology and the rest of the principles is upside down. When parties close citizens and their members from taking a decision on who should represent them, they deny themselves a chance for massive recruitment, first of all. They also deny their members a chance to determine who should lead them, and that method will eventually weaken them. Whereas it's true that the government machinery would be interested and I want to use the case of NUP, would be interested in making sure NUP gets weak candidates, I think it would still be possible. And with the minimum resources. Because the NRM did not send any resources to the districts. That's why in some areas joint campaigns failed. In other areas, joint campaigns where, candidates were putting together money to facilitate. There was no facilitation, and Afanda, which was a director, told us the other time that they had no facilitation to send to the grassroots. So that means that it's possible for these parties to organize elections where they have branch offices in the district. However much consensus may work, in areas where consensus has failed, it would be good for NUP to conduct primary elections. Failure of that, they are going to produce independents the same way the NRM irregularities are going to produce independents. So that will weaken their performance as a party in the general elections. When it comes to the PFF, I haven't taken note of areas where they have more than one candidate. If they are there, they are very few. They are very few. In that context, you can have consensus because you are dealing with less than 10. I'm sure where there is a competition is in the short time, of course, PFF is the newest party in the country, just about 2 months old. If they have more than, the competition, it's not in more than 10 constituencies. Still, where people fail to agree, I would urge them to run primaries. Let the members decide and own the process. The advantage that NRM derives from this process which is messy, of primaries, is that when you go for general elections, some of the people, out of naivety, think they've already decided. So you go to campaign, unless you campaign, others say, but we've already decided on the other candidate. Some of them even don't go to vote. So they think they've decided. That's why you see many people celebrating. Of course, it's true, and it's false in other constituencies, and many flag bearers will be defeated. Parties will only grow by taking decisions to the people.
Thank you. Honorable Banyenzaki, at least we're now talking about the broader opposition and also juxtaposing it with the methodology that your party uses in selecting candidates. So I'm sure you will have something to actually say. When you look at, when you compare the two or the different approaches used by either side, which one do you think enhances more transparency and fairness, not just for the contenders, but also for the electorate?
I think I would prefer the NRM style. Though the question now, the contention is, should there be this lining up or secret ballot? But at least the citizens or the party members should participate into the decisions of their candidacy of their parties. This matter came in NRM in its early formation, which I said I was part of. And there was one group which was advocating for a party list. And then that was the time when we have independent voices. Again, we are saying the moment you have that small group, call it a clique, to choose the members, to make a decision for the party, or to choose the members, candidates, then you are going to have those independent voices, like what my brother was saying. They will be rigged out. They won't be accepted. So when you can imagine now in NRM, if there is a small group which is choosing, they wouldn't choose Tinka Simire. They say you're a label. They wouldn't choose Sechkubo. They wouldn't have chosen me then. The Badiomonsis, because we were a number. So it is right and fitting that the party members get involved into choosing their candidates. For NUP, they had their honeymoon when it was just in its formation, but they cannot sustain it, definitely. They can't sustain it as it transits into a national and a mass party. They cannot sustain it. And much as I don't know how they are doing it in UPC, but you can't sustain that. And thinking about these internal elections within the parties, I think it's a high time that we came up with the law to regulate these internal elections within the parties. Because whenever these candidates run to the all contestants, those who could have participated, when they run to court, none wins, because they say that's your business, that's an internal matter in your parties. But these bickerings and in these internal elections, for example, in NRM, it has resulted into many deaths and chaos. So I think there should be a serious thought to have a law that regulates internal elections within the parties, so that when you go to court, you have a law to rely on. Well, one would argue there is this Political Parties Organization Act, but it does not cover the matter.
No. Yeah.
So now when you go to court, court doesn't want to know what is happening into NRM internal matters, UPC, where. So the decision that was taken by court in UPC, well, that is very good, but rarely do courts entertain such a matter with the courts. In most cases, they dismiss them. And yet, they impact on the democratic governance of the country. So, for me, I would advocate for a system that involves the party members.
So, Dr. Ojiambo, I want us to talk about opposition cohesion. Of course, when these parties are choosing their flag bearers and they're using all these approaches which are not open to the public, there's less scrutiny. They sit and decide amongst themselves who should be the flag bearer. We are endorsing this so and so. Do you think this poses any serious challenges to our opposition parties, especially when it comes to building broad consensus internally?
Thank you, Judith. The first impression I want to correct, and unfortunately which is cementing into our language, and every time we are speaking, we have NRM and opposition parties. No, the law does not envisage that. The law envisages political parties. So NRM is just one of the political parties, and that is what has really been planted into our people. They look at NRM, legitimate leader. Then these others, opposition parties. No, they only become opposition after election and after forming government, and therefore we have a party in government and then the parties in opposition. Like right now, no party should be called opposition. And that's why even I think, even the iPod money now should be given to all political parties on equal measures, because we are going into an election to form those governments that you are talking about. So that is the first impression I wanted to correct. And it's something that we need to struggle and uproot into the minds of Ugandans, to think that NRM, legitimate leader, these others, opposition, and which has created a very big problem. Two, political parties were started on a wrong infrastructure. When you look at political parties from the political, that law that you referred to, and the circumstances that allowed them to operate, it was not like these people are coming to make a contribution into the political leadership of the country. But let's leave them. You heard what the president was saying. Let's leave them so that they can go and
where
do,
they want
to go and do their kavuyo.
Actually, the political slogan was Katubejeko.
Katubejeko. I think, in my view, that was a poor infrastructure. The best infrastructure should have been constructed to support this law, the Political Parties Act,
and Organizations Act,
and to work like that. And in that act, it allows political parties to have its own organizations and therefore have its own constitutions. So you have NRM, they have their NRM constitution. You have NUP, when they got the other political party, and they got even its constitution, which they wanted to amend, and the Electoral Commission said, wait, you cannot amend. DP have their constitution, UPC have their constitution, and others. And therefore, those constitutions, Honorary, when they go to court, court must look at their actions in accordance to their constitutions. For us in the university, we just have an association. But when you take us to court, the judge, the magistrate must judge us according to our constitution, and we make sure that our constitution does not contravene the national constitution. So that's where I want to start from. Where political parties thrive, I agree with him. We need a law, a general law to govern elections, national elections,
internal democracy,
internal party elections,
democracy and all forms of election should have a semblance of non-barbarism, should have a semblance of no corruption, should all the things. And these guys like NRM, they have been breaking the law. Only that we shy about it. I have seen that the president has now directed about 20 also have been elected, but arrested. But I don't see any imprisonment that is going to take place. Quietly, they are going to see people being released. So I think, in my view, you have talked about cohesion. Political parties, as I've always argued, should belong to the people. The people should be the owners of political parties. Then the leaders come to lead on behalf of the people. In Uganda, it is opposite. Political parties belong to the leaders. NRM, you have heard the NRM people have been listening to radio, and there is this cliche statement. Oh, President Museveni, come and help us out of this problem. Does the party belong to President Museveni, or they have handed it to him? So that is one of the major problems. The political parties, who do they belong to? And for that case, it wouldn't be problematic. Remember FDC, Forum for Democratic Change. For me, in my political life, that is the only political party I have seen which has had serious contention on the leadership of the party president. You remember, they would go all over the country. They campaigned for a long time without police beating any group. They would elect the leader and they all accept until they started having problems themselves. And I remember they would start with delegates coming from every village. I one time went to, I was doing some work in Fort Portal down there, and I saw they were electing, and I asked, who are these electing? They told me FDC is electing their village candidates. They would elect a village candidate, then the village candidate comes until when they reach Kampala and they go to Najana Kumbi. And at that time they had no much problem until Kaukumi or the small beetle entered them. DP have their mechanism where they elect people, then they are vetted by SEC of the DP. UPC, when it had just come here, they were doing the same. NUP had to operate according to the constitution that they have right now. And that constitution, there is no primaries. They do through consensus. And that's why they've been doing some drama. I've been seeing sometimes they do drama like they did in Kawempe to determine who would be there. There was some drama there. They said something and it looked like a competition, but it was not an open competition. I hear people right now, they are proposing names, and then people will through, they call it what? This
Election Management Committee.
There is election management committee. People they will get public opinion. That they get public opinion in that area. How they calculate and formulate that public opinion is not very, very clear. So I think the best thing is for us to first go. You know, I like athletics so much, and that's why I respect athletes. When an athlete wins a race, there is nothing you can say about it. Like right now, Kiptegei is the world champion of 10,000 and 5,000, world record holder. You cannot doubt it because they show you that we are going to start like this. If it is 10,000, we are going to rotate the pitch times 25. The one who reaches number 1 will be the winner. And if you do a false start, you restart. So political parties have done a false start. They need to go back to the drawing board and start afresh. That is one. 2, I would agree with his, we need some amendment in that law to govern order in political parties so that we can refer to order, but we need to respect the constitutions of these political parties.
Thank you. Joseph, drawing from your very own experience within UPC, what would you say is or are the biggest threats to internal party cohesion? And if you could also, give us some insights on how these gaps can be plugged in.
I think generally at the moment Ugandans are simply still recovering from 20 years of NRM brutality and attack and assault on democracy and on political parties, and the attack on the psyche of the people of Uganda, that political competition is bad, and that even within NRA, if you have an alternative opinion, then you're a bandit who has got to be broken like Besigye, and that if it is a political party, it's bad, and according to Museveni, in a very terribly baseless view, that political parties are built on religion, on tribe, and et al., that argument they made. That really killed the spirit from the average public. When political parties returned, unfortunately, it would appear most younger Ugandans then of 20s and 30s plus at that time, who are now possibly pursuing 40 to 50 ages, and now the more younger people, like the ones in charge of these programs, bought into those ideas. Have they woken up to the reality that actually the normalcy in political parties, that political parties can be really agents for change, that political parties are organizations that are driven by values, and political parties are organizations whose leadership should be based on visions and ideas, and that political parties should be organizations that you join on the basis of competition of ideas, and that if you did so at a national level, NRA versus NUP, then you can actually also do it internally within UPC to say that, well, you're from to the right of UPC, to the left of UPC, that as far as UPC is concerned, your view on the war in Congo is that we should not get involved, and our view is that we should go ahead and again loot their money so long as we bring it back into our taxes. UPC as a political party, I can tell you, has amongst the most fantastic constitutions, and I will tell you that as it happens, in a very shameful way, NRA continues to steal some ideas from our constitution, just like they continue to steal some ideas from our original manifestos and documents. FDC, I will say this reluctantly as a matter of evidence. Our objective number one was and is to build the Republic of Uganda as one country, one national parliament, with one national government. FDC gets founded, and they just go ahead and steal that one. One Uganda, one people. And many political parties have done that these days, including songs and slogans. So for us, actually, it's not the structures and systems. For us, is that dearth of leadership. Up to the time of the elections of Mama Mia, we didn't really have many of these issues, except for when we went to the country and we found certain constituencies did not have members that would constitute the lowest unit as branches because of that. And that is understandable, like my brother he is saying, that if you go and in Tungamo, you cannot constitute a branch from a particular area. Maybe you may not be able to constitute a constitution somewhere in Kirhura, and then you concede that in that district you only have a composition of representation of say of 30 people. What normally happens, and what should happen, and I don't know about other opposition political parties, I'm not even sure whether it's the perfect thing in NRA, is that the lowest unit of a party, which should be normally with the branch, if you take the branch as the lowest unit, constitutes its systems and structures and executives. And when they hold their elections, they've got representations that go to constitute the constituency, parliamentary constituency. Actually sub-county constituencies. And then after that, they constitute a parliamentary constituency. And then from a parliamentary constituency, they constitute district executives, all formally elected structurally as a team. From there up to the district executives, and from there, and you get a delegates conference. I don't want to bore us in terms of because of time. Once you constitute a delegates conference becomes the supreme organ of the party. That is not the problem. The problem is the composition. The problem is who goes into recruit. The problem these days is who then decides to go somewhere in the corner of Kamdini, and then after taking a bit of roasted chicken, then you can constitute your girlfriend to be the vice secretary, as the system has broken. That really is the problem at the moment. For us then, if you fast forward to what happened, for instance, in our elections was basically part of what happened around NRA, where in some places, particularly in Buganda, where we do not have very strong structures, once time came, people rode on their motorbikes and went and picked delegates and picked some other people's names and gaps where people are. People put in the girlfriends with whom they were last going towards a deputy state house and things like that, and constituted delegates. Those are the problem. Now, that is a national psyche. Problem in this country, while we're discussing political parties, the problem of leadership, we need to push for a national integrity, and I'm sorry to bore you guys. we need to think that leaders emerge in this country across the political divide. And I hope, and I look at this fantastic panel, that this panel is a representation of that we find a way and a situation in which Mr. Museveni retires. I think until Mr. Museveni retires and we have an interim arrangement, the business of stealing money, the business of using money, the business of taking shortcuts in the political process and organizations will not stop. Do we need necessarily legislations to do this? By and large, we should. I don't necessarily think so. I was with a member of the NRA the other day at a television program, and we were having discussions around this lining up thing. And part of his argument was that this thing's about resources. And I said, look, I have conducted elections, both in UPs and elsewhere, up to and very senior levels, including elections that would lead to a parliamentary candidate. You don't need ballot papers printed in town. You cross exercise books. That's when there's confidence, when the institutions, when there's systems. I've been chairpersons at various levels, from branch to relatively high levels. You sit as colleagues and delegates and comrades, and you conduct an election. One, there is integrity. Two, people know that, look, if Sarah is late, you don't qualify. Three, if you're a member and your membership subscription has elapsed, it is here, you will not argue. And four, if the cutoff point is that, and some parties do this actually, that in order to qualify as a candidate for elective positions, you must have been a member of, in this case, a particular political party over a certain period of time. Some parties do 6 months, other parties do, the Labour Party does 12 months, but their discretions, maybe somebody has come from a university student, they consider maybe young people, women, or people who cross from other political parties discretionary. Now, if that is an election at, say, at a constituency level or a councillor level, you may seek authority from a regional party to make sure that you're not playing corruption, or legal guidance from the national top. And that's really all you do. I think at the moment is the corruption that has injected our community. And partly because politics is now about money and business rather than services. I think that's basically where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm told we just have 10 minutes, and I think we should just run through this very, very quickly, which is actually the last issue I wanted us to focus on. The National Unity Platform is no longer a baby. This month it is marking its 5th anniversary. It officially registered in July 2020 and rapidly emerged as a significant political force, particularly in the lead up to the 2021 general elections, where it became the largest opposition party in parliament. So its anniversary, of course, is a moment for reflection on its journey, including its achievements in mobilizing a largely youthful base, challenging the status quo, and securing a notable presence in the legislature. But it also brings into focus the challenges the party faces, such as political repression, internal cohesion, and the task of building sustainable structures and a clear long-term strategy for achieving political change in Uganda's tightly controlled political landscape. Very quickly, what do you consider to be NUP's most significant achievements in its 5-year journey, Sarah? And also the setbacks that have, or the challenges that have also impeded its movement, its growth, and its activities. We have 10 minutes, so I think we'll just do this in 2.5 each.
Okay. So first of all, I wish to congratulate the National Unity Platform, which was also born on my birthday.
One of you should give the other cake.
You're fantastically smart, by the way. You and Judith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the ladies specifically, you guys are always smart, but I love the way you guys are designed today.
Carry on.
I know you're just passing. You are going to do the fire.
No, it's not.
Yeah, my birthday is on Sunday. So, but apart from that, I think largely, given the context NUP operates in, you have to give them their flowers. They came in a defiant mode. People called them the wind. Others thought they would not last. Yes, they caused that wind in the elections, the wave, not the wind. Especially in the Uganda region. People thought they would not last. Others criticized them on the basis of experience. But they took up all the stones that were thrown at them and they used them to build a firm foundation. They have tried leading the opposition in parliament, of course with turbulence, especially with their former leader of opposition who has now broken away and formed his own party. They also overcame that challenge because many people thought they would fall apart, but here they are. So I think given the context, they also have a leadership school. I know that the NRM, the oldest party, which enjoys a lot of benefit with access to state institutions, uses Chankwanzi as a training for their leaders. But the NUP has their own leadership school. They don't encroach on any government structure. I'm sure that even many youth don't know that Chankwanzi is a national leadership training institute. It's not an NRM entity. It comes as a shock because of that monopoly of a national institute for partisan work, which is really unfortunate. So if I were to mark them academically, I would give them 70%.
Thank you. Honorable.
Oh, I admire those boys. They are, I think they qualify to be geniuses. When you see young as they were in the political space, Kyagulanyi reincarnates from being a musician with Dodrots to a statesman. And then you have Rubongoya, a very brilliant young man, form a party, and we all thought that they cannot move any step further, and it was shunned. And it is the reason why they got, because everybody didn't want to pick their ticket. And the downtrodden are the ones who had nothing to lose, went for their ticket, and eventually they got elected. And some of them, then that's how we got members of parliament who were very inexperienced, because the elite had shunned the political party. But they have transformed and they have put up a fight, a very good fight. And they transformed them to be the leaders of the opposition in the parliament. Whereas we have our old party of UPC, DP, and the other parties, even FDC, they outsmarted them. So NUP definitely, Dr. Sarah giving 70% to NUP is a disfavor.
You're giving them how much?
Oh my, this guy deserves 100%.
Okay.
When everybody was shunning them, you get, when everybody was shunning them, and I remember what my old statesman Mushegas talked about to Kyagulanyi. He said, don't underestimate him. And anybody, including anybody who underestimates Kyagulanyi, with his mobilization skills, with his transformational gymnastics, and you underestimate Rubongoya, oh, these guys, they are ahead of us. They are ahead of, actually, they are ahead of us. They are ahead of our political generation. For us who are already experienced, but for them they emerge with no experience, and they make a party, and they transform this party into the leading party. They beat up the Besiges, they use the Mushegas, the late John Kazoras, the Kumagumisiris, that's the Siriyogwa, name them. These are the guys who mentored me, by the way. The Ben Watcher. And they come and everybody were laughing at them. And here they are. They deserve even more than 100%.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Honorable.
Wow.
On to you.
And another thing that I've forgotten, truth be told, they have been fought.
Yeah.
They have been fought and justifiably. And even sometimes when you see how they are treated, it is very unfair that even my own, the government has, why do you use government structures to muzzle those young boys that are trying to fight for a political space? Why should you? Why this abduction? Why? What's wrong with the competition? What's wrong with competition?
Do you ever ask your chairman questions?
Unfortunately, I lost that platform.
I wish
but
you
if
get
I
it
had,
back.
I am using this platform. I'm asking him.
Yes.
I think he will see this. This show. Why abduct those young boys? Why muzzle them? When I say, it is a cake. It is, I don't know how to call it. It doesn't make sense. Competition, should be healthy. What's wrong with it?
Thank you, Honorable. Dr. Ojiambo.
Yeah,
What's the biggest successes and setbacks for NUP
I
in the
like
last 5 years?
his honesty, and he has influenced me. I rarely give 80 because 80 means first class, and first class should really be first class. But I'm tempted to give NUP 80%. Once you give 80, whether it is 89 or up to 100, it's the same.
It's an A. It's an A plus.
So NUP, I think NUP was organic. It was an organic thing. There was not so much sitting down and choreographing things. NUP was brought up by circumstances of the day. Remember, the biggest mobilizer of people who were not happy with what government was doing for quite a long time had been Besigye. The Besigye wave was the one which really awakened people and forced young men to go on the street and die there. After that time when NUP came, Besigye was almost pulling back. And people kept on asking him, will you stand? And he says, I'll not stand. And until the last day when he said he was not going to stand. So people had to look for an alternative quickly. And these people were there to give the alternative in their own way. Just like South Africans who defeated the apartheid. They did not have a proper formula. They did not have any money. They didn't have an office. You remember they had to use the founder's home as the office. And they started. And here we are now discussing a party 5 years. You called it that it has now moved to babies. In political party history, they are still toddlers. They are still toddlers because political parties take time to grow and reach that level of the Labour Party, of CCM, of ANC, of the one in India, and so many others. I really feel that according to the orders of the day, they have done well. I wish they were operating in a better place. We would judge them better. Because right now it is quite difficult to judge them fairly. I was on a radio talk show and I called them, some of them who cry, that they should do stop baby cry. And of course that one they must stop. When you come for a challenge, you must measure to the challenge. And that's how the Steve Bikos and other people who really gave up a bloody nose never became baby cry. Steve Biko was at the university doing law and was very comfortable, but he said, let me get out of this to Fort Hare. And he went and said, let me go and die, and he died. So I really feel that they have had some challenges. Of course, they have a huge challenge. They have been labeled a party in Buganda. Especially in northern Uganda, they have come up with their old rivalry of UPC versus Buganda and the north and so on. I hope they marshal that out. And when people like Bosmic
team
were defeated, some of us said, you cannot tread on ethnic undertones and you succeed, please learn to be nationalists. I hope they penetrate the other parts of Uganda and sell their ideas. The one thing that has defeated them, you know, for those who have some little military training, you don't allow yourself to be killed. As we talk today, we still have prisoners who were, as he said, were arrested because of supporting NUP, and they have become helpless. Almost yesterday, one was given bail, the others are crying. We don't know how many died up to today. I don't know how they are going to build a strategy to avoid being openly killed. I don't know whether they should get a military wing. I don't have capacity to advise them in that area. But some people have become jittery now when they see their children join NUP. They think they are going to be killed. That's a major challenge. The biggest challenge for all political party is to get money for mobilization. I don't know how they are going to deal with that one, but they are smart. They know how to do it. As Sarah talked about the school, I have been impressed by what they teach in that school. Some of the syllabus that they are teaching there is not even handled by premier universities. I have just glanced on it. We wish them all the best.
Thank you, thank you. And lastly to you, Joseph.
Yeah, good luck to these guys. Except the observation by Dr. Ojiambo about UPC and the North versus NUP, I don't read it at all. If anything, the identity question that NUP has faced has come from Museveni and predominant from the West. And in any case, if you're to mention identities, I think a particular section of Museveni's cousins in Kiruhura were used, manipulated, and exploited around the idea of identity that those Baganda, and the conversation when Kyagulanyi was making his speech in Luwero. So in any case, the identity question has been used by NRA more, and NRA is not an Acholi thing, nor am I saying it's necessarily a Western thing, so I reject that view. But number two, I also happen to be a leading brain behind the People Power movement as part of the broader campaign. And if anything, part of the disappointment was possibly the timing of NUP. Kyagulanyi may go ahead and prove us wrong. But big infrastructure, which I built and which UPC built particularly around the world, and I don't go specifics, were predominantly UPC, and some of them, actually some of their leading brains abroad are from the North. But that said, credit to these guys, as my colleagues have said, you know, they weathered the storm in many ways. They've been the faces of and targets of beatings, and in fact, we could say that if there is an opposition in the last few years, that faces of beating is associated with the NUP. In terms of the timing, UPC as Uganda National Congress, we formed a government after 10 years. We were founded in 1952, and by the middle of 5 years, we were the most formidable political force as the independent national force. And we can also say that Uganda People's Congress, once reconstituted in 1960, we formed a government within 2 years. I'm just giving comparison, not a competitive comparison, that happened. And in any case, yes, it's true that I've used that as an argument to say that the people who say Kyagulanyi was too young to become a leader were misleading, because Milton Obote became a prime minister at 37, and he became the most formidable prime minister this country has ever seen, and UPC delivered the only government that has ever delivered anything for the people of this country. So I hope that going forward, they could be slightly much more clearer in terms of exactly what they represent. And I hope that structurally, yes, they should be able to face what is thrown at them, particularly from NRA, slightly from an issues-based perspective. Sometimes NRA traps them, and sometimes, once in a while, emotions prevail more than a real reason, and that is to the advantage of the guys who are smart at manipulating public opinion. But that said, I'll give them 70, since everyone's giving them, like Sarah, I'll give them 70%.
Thank you very much. And this brings us to the end of this discussion, but I need to give you each a minute to just give me your concluding remarks. We've had quite a broad discussion from the president's letters to the UPC, developments in the UPC, and broadly the opposition political parties and their internal processes for choosing candidates, and of course, lastly, the 5-year anniversary that the National Unity Platform has celebrated. So quite a broad discussion, but I'll just give you a minute to condense or compress all this in your concluding remarks, starting with you, Dr. Sarah.
I think I will conclude on executive power. Our constitution from Article 97, 8 and 99 vests executive power in the president. The president should not only write ridiculous letters to Bazukuru about matters elections, he needs to prevail on the army and ensure that all citizens, not just his party members and supporters, enjoy credible, free and fair elections in this country. Mr. President, eyes are on you in the coming elections and your army.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. Honorable Banyenzaki.
Well, I agree with Salah. Definitely, the president is the executive, has the executive authority of this country, and he's not only the president of the NRM party itself. He superintends over the governance and the constitutionalism that and the laws that affect the nation as such.
Yeah.
So therefore, what happens should not only focus on what's happening in NRM. The other day it was in DP. Nothing was said because it was like a war going in Barara. Now it is in the UPC. The next day we don't know what's going to happen in the other day it was in the FDC. NUP, they still to be in a honeymoon. PFFF, they just started pure honeymoon. So the question of clean internal politics is not only for NRM alone, but for all the parties. And therefore, the president should be challenging us as the nation, not necessarily the Bazukuru, patronizing the Bazukuru, but us as the nation, to come up with and this kind of law that I'm advocating for, that will regulate all the parties, so that when they go to the seat of justice, then the courts of law have where to base them. And I'm glad to be here. This is my first time to be in this space of Civic Space TV for good governance.
We'd like to have you more often, by the way. If you can make time, we'd be
really
really glad.
Come.
That would be awesome.
I will gladly come, and thank you for the good job that you are doing,
Thank
especially Sarah. I had a friend yesterday, I was having a chat, and he was rating you second to Bessie J. In terms of weight. And he was saying, you don't know what Sarah is. I rate him as second to Bessie J.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Ojiambo, in 1 minute. In 1 minute.
95%.
Of course, beginning with how we started, Honorable Banyenzaki, we just hope that the people of Rwanda West look at you and return you back to Parliament. We are really missing you. In fact, the people today are going to be shocked. Where has this man come from? I think when you are talking about the politics of Uganda, we are talking about our life, our livelihood, because politics commands a lot of things in life. It commands good public health, it commands good transport, it commands good education. You people, you don't know where our education has gone. I have been supervising students in this school practice. The so-called new curriculum is a joke, is dramatic and a joke. I don't know what type of English our children are going to speak, because they have left the principles of English. They are now teaching corruption, I don't know what, and they are teaching an English lesson. And I say, what is this? Does it teach grammar? Does this teach reading? Does this teach writing? Does this teach listening? Does this teach pronunciation? Nothing. And the people are happy. We really need to be serious when we are discussing matters that are for this country. Which type of MP do you vote? Are you voting an MP who stopped in P6 and has now gone on equivalent because he did some military training? You want this person to come up with a good education policy? Which miracle will happen? So we hope that the parties settle down. UPC, you need to sit, find out where did you go wrong and organize ourselves. For NUP, we encourage you, please change the strategy. Don't allow to be killed.
Thank you. Lastly, Joseph.
I just want to say that Mr. Museveni wrote 3 letters in 24 hours, and that was really a record. Yeah, so Mr. Museveni, translate those letters into action. We want to see those happen in NRM. Many young people in NRM are responsible citizens of the future. A future UPC government will want to make sure that we build them into responsible statespersons. As far as UPC is concerned, yes, we need to put our house in order. But I also want to say that the judiciary is also on trial here. Had the judiciary done its job, we would not be having this conversation today. We would have been having this conversation 4 years ago. Had they done their jobs today, a mere appeal of Ochieno would not have taken 5 years. So there is an element of the state and there's an element of institutional weaknesses here. An appeal that took 4 years and another appeal that has taken 4 years means UPC is being held hostage. I know some people in NRA enjoy whatever is happening in the sleeping giant called Uganda People's Congress, but no, we are the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Citizens Chat Show. We've had quite a huge and broad conversation, starting from the president's letters on the recently concluded NRM primaries. We also looked at how opposition parties are choosing their flag bearers, as well as the developments, the internal dynamics within the Uganda People's Congress Party. And lastly, we also analyzed the National Unity Platform party that has just marked 5 years of existence, though we didn't have a detailed discussion like we would have loved to. But regardless, drop us a comment in the comment section. Thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. Thank you to our special guest for today, Honorable Henry Banyenzaki, who is making his maiden appearance on this show. We hope to have him a lot more on this show. Drop us a comment, tell us what you think. Also, special thanks to our production crew for working tirelessly and helping us to curate this content and share it on our different platforms. Feel free, if you haven't already, subscribe and also share this content on our various on your various platforms. You can also follow us on our various platforms: TikTok, X, Facebook, and so on. This is the Citizens Chat Show. We'll be back next week, same time. It is goodbye from us for today.